So ladies and gentlemen, before we get too far here, I want to show you a very, probably for the first time you will ever see it in public. I've gone into my deep archives of antiquities, and I'm going to show you a celestial map. When I say celestial, from the heavens, and I will show you at the same time on earth of how Ghana is under the cross of the universe. And I literally mean cross. As it is in heaven, so shall its kingdom be established on earth. So let me show you that first. If I can get our camera to zero in, am I in front of the right camera? To get it to zero in where the general public can get. And you will see this was taken by a satellite of the Southern Cross up in the heavens, in space, and how, which way we go? Yeah, the Southern Cross, you see, and you will see below the longitude and the latitude on Earth. And you will see on the West African sector of the continent where Ghana is, that it crosses longitudinal and latitudinal. And it aligns directly in the sky with the constellations of the zodiac, of our sun, and the planetary bodies that are crossing during the winter solstice now. This event only happens every year between December 22nd, 23rd, 24th. And the sun sits over Ghana, literally, stands still over Ghana for 3 days, and then the Son of God rebirths itself and rises by 1 degree to go back north on a trajectory to bring summer and all of the bliss of warmth to the northern hemisphere. And then on around September, it starts a voyage again back down towards Ghana. And so what I am saying, and all the reverend ministers who are learned in the Bible, I want you to know where the sun sits over the land, where you have the celestial cross from heaven that links up with the longitude and the latitude cross on earth. That is the house of God. It is the house of God on earth. And and what I'm saying, Howard, look, it's a very interesting thing that is happening here. We are not aware in our educational background of what our, let's say, Ghanaian forebears and generally African forebears knew about astronomy. Don't play the African cheat. The Europeans did not create astronomy. The Europeans did not create the laws of physics and quantum mathematics. The edifices that we have on earth will bear witness and evidence that what I'm telling you is the truth. When I say edifice, I'm talking about like the alignment of Khufu's pyramid, other edifices that we have put up that are aligned with the celestial bodies in the universe. So what I'm saying, I'm making a case here is this. How did, we asked this question once before, how did our forebears, Ghanaians, know to come to this sector of Africa and declare that this would be the new home?
They used the sun.
They used the sun. They used the sun. And you cannot use the sun unless you have knowledge of the sun from a celestial in the cosmos. So simply meaning is that Ghanaians and other African ethnic groups of antiquity knew about the laws of the universe, and they knew that those laws govern our behavior on earth. And they knew the sun, S-U-N, not S-O-N, the Son of God, would guide them to the New Jerusalem. The New Jerusalem, because our forebears were booted out of the land called Canaan or Canaan, ancient Israel. It was not a voluntary exodus. It was a forced exodus by invading Indo-Aryan white tribes coming out of the Caucasus Mountains. Now what I'm saying is, the long and the short of that was this. When they left Canaan or ancient Israel, how would they know where they were going? They knew that the Spirit of God in the Holy Land was no longer resting in that place called Israel once they left. Right. Because you remember I defined to you before, how do you define a holy land? Is it the land mass itself, or is it the people? It is the people that make the land holy. Exactly. So what I'm saying is our people came down to the Gold Coast following the sun from north to south, and the sun stops. All right. Where that sun stops, they declared that is the house of God. And that house of God is Ghana, because the sun stops here on December the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, and it rises on the 25th. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you, the second coming of Christ is coming from Ghana. And that Christ that's going to rise will declare, make that declaration on the 25th of December. I'm not saying on this particular December the 25th that is coming up, but it's imminent that the second resurrection that everybody's been waiting for, the Messiah, the Mahdi Christ, will come from Ghana.
Yeah, because Jesus Christ, I mean, according to your history, traces back to Ghana. And so
will come from Ghana.
There's a clarification you need to make, and that is that you said there is a cross above Ghana. Now, I know there is more to cross, but educate us. Then can we say that Ghana is do we say that God is a Christian God? Because we find a cross above Ghana, and that is where heaven is? Or there's more to the cross symbol,
wait a minute, let me
not
clarify.
just religion?
Please, I beg, let me clarify this to you. I'm not putting that in a religious perspective. I'm coming from our heritage. You understand? We considered what the Europeans consider religion. We considered it to be a way of life. We lived. We walked that walk. We talked that talk. We were a spiritual people. And this cross that's in the heavens is a part of the constellations and of also Sirius, the North Star.
So should we relate the symbol of the cross to Jesus Christ on the cross, and that God is a Christian God? Or we should relate the symbol that is formed, the constellation cross up there, to a deeper meaning of the symbol?
What happened, if you just zero in on this side, it was the shenanigans and the lies and deceit of what the Romans did in 325 AD, to answer your question. They took this cosmological principle that we knew from time immemorial, and they converted that into a dead white man on the cross on December the 25th.
Right. Now, they said the stone that the builder rejects ends up being the cornerstone. And usually when this cornerstone is out, the center cannot hold. 13 verses 14 and 15 says, sons and daughters of Abraham will be put into bondage, 400 years of bondage, and at the end of the bondage, they will come out victorious with great riches. Very, very interesting here that sons and daughters of Abraham will be in bondage of 400 years. Now, comparatively to the discussions we've had over the weeks or over the months, I would say there seemed to be some kind of link.
In the Genesis chapter 15, verses 13 and 14, know for a surety, Abraham, that your seed will go into bondage, be kidnapped, taken to a foreign land, spend 400 years in that land. But know in the next verse, 15, 13, 14, that I, God Almighty, will judge the people who enslave my children. And those children, they will come out with great substance and riches from the world that they have served. And they will return back to their motherland. And it is that entity that is supposed to revitalize, rejuvenate the continent, and move us forward. So they're talking about African people in the Bible.
In 2007, the government of Ghana, under the auspices of the Ministry of Tourism, acknowledged the Bible prophecy of the African slave descendants taken to the Americas by establishing the Joseph Project to reach out to those Africans in the diaspora.
There's been 100 years of archaeological analysis and investigation in the desert of the Sinai to see if the Israelites exodus out of Egypt. In fact, there is absolutely not one record in all of the papyrus and records of Egypt. And Egypt was an extremely tedious record-keeping people. There's not one record to show evidence that there was any white people or any so-called Israelites enslaved in Egypt proper.
Okay, so...
But there is record, according to the United Nations Conference Against Racism. It states for a fact, UNESCO states in a summary conference in 1978, that the Africans are the only people in the last 6,000 years that were kidnapped from their motherland, taken to a foreign land, spent over 400 years in bondage.
The master teacher explains the historical importance of Ghana during the period of...
Ghanaians were taken from their mother womb. Here, there were 66 slave forts at the peak of slavery. Ghana had 46 of the whole 66. 6 between Senegal, what they call Upper Guinea, down to Angola, which they call Lower Guinea. There were 66. The Gold Coast, Ghana had 46 of the 66. The evidence is there. The real children of Israel are in the ghettos of the United States of America, in Jamaica, in the Caribbean, and right here in Ghana. Africans. And that's what the Bible is talking about.